All right, Nathan Crowley, production designer of Interstellar. Thank you for joining us. Yeah.
No problem.
All right, thank you. I just wanted the folks at home to know that you were there. Uh, so we got a lot to talk about. I don't even know where to start. Let's just begin with the spaceship. The design of it, building it, practicality of it.
Which one?
All right, let's start with the main spaceship, the one that that McConaughey and
The,
Hathaway spend the most amount of time on.
well, yeah, you got the Ranger, the Endurance, and the Lander. So I guess the Endurance is our inter-orbital ship. Is the carries everything they need on the mission, and then the Ranger is our sort of shuttle and our sort of fast-moving ship that can go and check planets out. Our lander is the ship that basically, once you've decided that you can have, it takes part of the pods of the Endurance. So I mean, right there, the Endurance is sort of built of it's a radial ship because we wanted it to have 1G gravity, so it would rotate, so it's a circle. And it has 12 pods, 4 engines, 4 living pods, and then 4 pods that would eventually go down to whichever planet you choose, down to the surface. So they would be landed by the lander. So I guess the design of the Endurance was really, it's very important to keep it circular, and I very much wanted to have these sort of geometric blocks that would form each of these pods, and then they would linked with airlocks, and then the central hub was where the 2 Rangers and the 2 landers were housed. The Ranger sort of Maserati of the ships. It was the film starts off with him in an early model Ranger, so he was he was a test pilot for the Ranger. He understands the ship, and Coop's ship is the Ranger. Lander, sorry, go on.
Oh no, no, you go ahead.
I lost you there, Zach.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying the Lander was really, the design of it was really about taking the pods down to any of the planets, like the ice planet where you see the lander drop some of the pods, and it's like a heavy. I always felt like it was. I designed it like a heavy lift Russian helicopter, so it would have some bulk to it, and it could carry these pods. And the reason when you're inside, you see the seats that are gimbaled, is because the concept of it, when you took these pods out of the Endurance, you would have to go upside down to re-enter because its heat shields were on the underside to protect the pod you were landing. Seats, so the design of it was very much was the ability to be the same. It would have controls either side, so you could go 180 on it. So the design sort of the lander sort of focused around that, and the Coop ship, the Ranger, was much more about the sleek design. It's much more. He was, it's about test pilots and X1s, and so it was much more sort of a sleek design. So that's kind of where we started. And like most designs, they sort of evolve as you go through the process.
Right. Well, it amazed me how much of this stuff is actually built, as opposed to done on a green screen. Can you talk about the benefit of that, not just for the filmmakers, but for also the actors who are involved?
Well, early on, I've worked on many films with Chris, and we've always decided that anything we can do practically, we should do practically, and it's a choice. It's our choice, because I think if you build these objects and film them practically, it gives something to the film, some sort of realism, some visceralness to the film, that and some unexpected. This stuff is planned, but as you build it, things change, and you can you can grow with it. So we've always, we don't even discuss whether we're going to try and build it or not. We just do. And you know, for the actors, that allows them to physically be in the space. You know, the Ranger, we built a 52-foot Ranger, fully finished with interior hydraulic door in the back. We flew it. We took it apart, flew it in a 747, built a 5-mile road down to the water, reassembled it, took it out on the water. We had a construction crane lower it with the landing gear, come down, and the actors could get out of the back of it. So into the water, into a real location. And what, you know, for instance, those 3 days or 4 days we shot there, you know, we had weather coming on us, but that's unexpected. But for me, it gives a look to the film, and you know, and it's, you know, you find it's like a discovery. You discover the planet, and it's harsh, and you know, there's no replacement for Earth, and that is, you know, the weather is unplanned, and sometimes it tells you something about what you're trying to do. You know, a man's pod we put into the glacier, so we had construction crews build a pod into the glacier in Iceland. You know, they're working with crampons, and you know, we're trying to get equipment up onto the glaciers, and we got safety guys and climbers. But again, you feel the place, and you know, it's the way I can't imagine not trying to do that practically, because the design evolves, and if you just plan it, for me personally, and other people don't feel the same way as I do, but the design evolves with the building of it, and you know, to me, it's a piece of architecture that you know, you develop, and it's not how you might have not how you planned it on paper, but it becomes something else. And but the actors, you know, they can see, they can feel the place. You're in Iceland, you're climbing, you've got crampons on, and you for them, I hope that you understand that man's planet is a very hostile place, and you don't want to be there. There's no place like home.
Right, yeah. Well, speaking of home, I was struck by the fact that this is a film that's set in the future, probably not the not too distant future. We get little hints of that, but as far as the design of, you know, the town that they live in, there's not a lot of your normal futuristic kind of designs there. It feels very much like the here and now.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was very intentional. When we were planning and designing this film, the farmhouse was a big thing of discussion, because we obviously took reference from the Dust Bowl and all that footage and the type of architecture. So it's very, you know, when you look at that, it's very there's Americana to it. So if we're set in the future, then we'd be looking at a Dust Bowl that was perhaps houses that we reckon modern houses of today that would have solar panels and have these, you know, modern fixtures, modern kitchen. And so, but we felt that for Cooper, that, you know, we came to this conclusion because it was a real debate, that it would be distracting. Like, you don't want to be distracted by any futurism, visual futurism. You want to concentrate Americana of the landscape, the house, the corn. You know, we looked at Andrew Wyeth paintings. You want to feel this intense beauty that recognize it as an audience member, and really to go into any futurism at that point, because the rest of the film is set in space, I think would have been distracting. So it was a very conscious decision to make the the farmhouse feel familiar and very recognizable, and you could touch on it, and it had an old world feeling. You know, there was a romanticism. So and so that's why we took that path.
Right. I want to ask you also about in the last act of the film, that fifth dimension that Cooper goes to. Can you talk a bit about the design of that and how it was hold off?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that was the very first set we started with, and it was a massive collaboration between myself and Paul Franklin. Obviously, Chris was overseeing the whole thing. Paul Franklin being visual effects supervisor. I mean, we ended up again. We built 100 by 90 foot by 40 foot 5 feet set of the Tesseract, which is essentially the series of rooms and the timelines of the books and the furniture, which look like stretched objects. So we, it was a huge process coming up with that design, and it was very much a collaborative process. But we would, in the end, need to build something that we could put Matthew floating through. The books would push. So it ended up being this massive undertaking between visual effects extension. The design of it would be quite a few hours to describe. But we, it took us a long time. It was the first set we started, and it was the last set we finished designing. And we have myself, Chris, and Paul Franklin would have regular meetings around the world because we're filming in Iceland and Alberta and LA, where we'd have to join and discuss this thing wherever Chris was filming, because we were working off XYZ axis, and the time slices of each furniture piece would need to be stretched, and to physically build that, we needed to sculpt, rocking chairs that would be stretched and hung and floated in a volume of the stage set. So Paul Franklin needed to take other references of the furniture from the Alberta set, stretch of it, so then I could sculpt the stretched piece of furniture and then color range on it, and then wallpaper it, and then on top of that we project the texture. Paul would project a texture, a moving texture on it. So there's an enormous amount of practicalness to that set. For instance, the room behind the bookshelf that was practical with its vertical stretching books, we had a glass-floored version of the Albertan room that Mirth could be in, with the bed and some other floating, the pictures would be floating and hung with wires. And so, I mean, a very complicated set and very complicated to design, and it ended up being installation. The best way I can describe it is I felt like we built this art installation on set, and people would come in and it would be very confusing to them about what on earth is going on here. And but I'd say it's the one set in my entire. I had immense collaboration with visual effects on. So myself and Chris would start. We started the very first day of the film trying to come up with this multiple room idea that we kind of wasn't successful. So then we handed it over to Paul. Paul came up with these timeline, these time, if an object's in a room through time, it would have a timeline, and what would that look like? And from that, you would understand it'd be slices of the same object through moments in time on 3 axes. So, this thing, obviously, Kip Thorne would be involved as well, and so it'd be this big collaboration of ideas visualized. Eventually, it would come back to me as a practical set that I needed to build, and then Paul would extend. So, it wasn't a green screen stage, put it that way.
Right. Yeah. Well, that is certainly impressive. That would be the common practice these days, and it certainly looks like something that we haven't seen before. So, congratulations on that. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us and talking with us. I appreciate your time, and congratulations on the film.
Thanks.
You're welcome.